Imagine a pristine, multi-lane highway. On the surface, the asphalt looks smooth, the paint is fresh, and the traffic seems to be moving efficiently. You look at it and assume the infrastructure is sound. But underneath that asphalt, deep in the foundation, invisible sinkholes are forming. The soil is eroding, washing away silently, inch by inch, creating a hollow void beneath the road. One day, without a single warning sign, without a crack appearing beforehand, the road simply collapses. This is exactly what is happening inside your vascular system right now. We are conditioned by movies and television to fear the big event, the sudden clutching of the chest, the siren, the ambulance, the dramatic collapse in a restaurant. But the reality of vascular decline is far more insidious. For every massive stroke we see on the news, there are 5 to 10 silent events happening in the background. Medical science calls this a silent cerebral infarction. It is a phantom threat because it does not announce itself with a bang. It announces itself with a stumble, a forgotten word, a moment of confusion you brush off as just getting older, or a slight clumsiness in your hands. But here is the urgent, terrifying truth. You are likely doing one specific thing every single morning that is accelerating this erosion. You think it is a healthy habit. You think you are being hygienic. You have been sold a narrative that this habit is essential for social acceptance. But in reality, you might be systematically stripping away your body's primary defense against vascular collapse. Today, we are going to expose this error. We are going to stop fighting the symptoms and go straight to the root cause. We are going to identify the error, and we are going to revitalize your vascular defense system to stand strong against the silent stroke. This is not just about diet. This is about understanding the engineering of your own biology. To understand how to save your brain and protect your longevity, we have to stop looking at the body as a collection of separate organs, heart, brain, lungs, and start looking at it as a complex logistics problem. Your vascular system is a massive highway network, stretching over 60,000 miles if laid end to end. It is the supply chain that keeps you alive. The most critical component of this highway is not the heart, which is just the pump, but the linings of the pipes. This lining is called the endothelium. The endothelium is only 1 cell thick, but if you were to flatten it out, it would cover the surface area of a football field. It is not just a passive wall or a container for blood. It is an active, intelligent organ. Think of it as the Teflon coating of your pipes. When this coating is healthy and slick, everything slides. Blood flows with what physicists call laminar flow, smooth, silent, and efficient. Nutrients arrive at your brain cells, and toxic metabolic waste is swept away. But when this coating is scratched by high blood pressure, chronic sugar spikes, smoking, or environmental toxins, your body panics. It cannot leave a scratch on the inside of an artery because that could lead to a rupture, so it rushes to patch the scratch with biological cement. We call this cement plaque, a mix of cholesterol, calcium, and cellular debris. Here's the biological thriller. As you age, if you don't maintain that Teflon coating, the scratches become frequent and the patches pile up. The highway narrows. The smooth laminar flow turns into turbulent flow. It becomes chaotic. The traffic, your blood, slows down. This is gridlock. When the traffic slows, the delivery of oxygen to the deep microscopic centers of your brain drops. This isn't a disease you catch like a virus. It is a systems engineering failure. The cargo isn't arriving. The white matter in your brain, which connects different regions like fiber optic cables, begins to wither. This is the mechanism of the silent stroke. I want you to be honest with yourself right now. Do you ever stand up quickly from a chair and feel a momentary wave of dizziness, a slight spin? Do not ignore this. That is not normal aging. That is a distress signal from your control tower saying the fuel pressure is too low and the delivery system is lagging. Let me tell you a story about a man we will call Robert. This is a composite of many cases I have analyzed, and it represents a tragedy I see far too often. Robert was 62 years old. He was the archetype of the health-conscious man. He was the guy who did everything right according to the magazines. He didn't smoke, he wasn't overweight, he walked 30 minutes every day without fail. He tracked his macros. For lunch, he didn't eat burgers, he ate massive leafy green salads with spinach, kale, and beets because he read they were good for his heart. By all standard medical metrics like cholesterol, weight, and resting heart rate, Robert should have been in his prime. Yet, over a period of 6 months, Robert suffered a massive, inexplicable decline. It started subtly. He began losing his balance on the stairs. Not tripping, just feeling like the ground wasn't quite where he thought it was. His memory became foggy. He would walk into a room and forget why he was there, not just once in a while, but 5 times a day. He felt like he was wading through mud, both physically and mentally. His doctors were baffled. They ran standard blood panels and everything looked normal. His LDL cholesterol was low, his blood sugar was fine. They told him it was just stress or age-related cognitive changes, but they were wrong. Robert was suffering from vascular insufficiency. Here is the twist, and it is a heartbreaking one. Robert was consuming the absolute best superfuels for his arteries. He was eating the beets, the spinach, the arugula. He was putting the raw materials into his body, but he was completely neutralizing them. He was making a critical daily error in his morning bathroom routine that rendered all that healthy food biologically useless. Robert wasn't sick in the traditional sense. He was misinformed. He was unknowingly blocking the very chemical reaction that keeps the vascular highway open. He was fueling the car, but had cut the fuel line. We need to ensure you don't make Robert's mistake. Now, I know the burning question in your mind. You want to know exactly what food to eat and, more importantly, what habit to stop immediately. You want the checklist, and I will give you the specific step-by-step protocol in a moment, but listen to me closely. If I just tell you the name of the food or the product to avoid now without explaining the why, you will likely fail. You might do it for a week and then stop. To truly protect yourself, you need to understand the mechanism of nitric oxide. This molecule is so important that the discovery of its signaling properties won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1998. Nitric oxide is a gas. It is a signaling molecule. It is the language your blood vessels speak. When your endothelium releases nitric oxide, it sends a command to the smooth muscles surrounding your arteries to relax, expand, and widen. When the arteries expand, a process known as vasodilation, the highway widens, pressure drops, blood flow increases, oxygen floods the brain. But here is the catch. Nitric oxide is a gas with a very short half-life. It exists for only a few seconds before it degrades. This means your body cannot store it for later like it stores fat or sugar. You need a constant, continuous production of it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you don't have enough nitric oxide, your vessels stiffen. They become rigid pipes instead of flexible hoses. The pressure rises. The turbulence increases. The plaque accumulates. The error Robert made, and the error you are likely making, destroys the body's ability to produce this gas naturally. We have to fix the factory before we order the fuel. If your internal processing plant is shut down, eating healthy foods is just creating expensive waste. Before we fix the factory, we need to assess the current state of your system. How do we spot a silent stroke or vascular narrowing before the total collapse? How do you know if your nitric oxide levels are critically low? These symptoms are often dismissed by general practitioners as vague, but as an investigative advocate for your health, I want you to pay close attention to 3 specific signals. The first signal is what I call the vestibular glitch, or sudden balance changes. I don't mean tripping over a rug or slipping on ice. I mean standing still or walking on a flat surface and feeling like the gyroscope in your head just tilted. You might feel a sudden need to grab a wall or a chair. This is often a sign of small vessel disease in the cerebellum or the deep white matter, the areas that control coordination. It is a system error indicating that blood flow to the balance center is sputtering. The second signal is technically called amaurosis fugax, or microvision loss. This is a technical term, but the experience is frighteningly common. Do you ever see fleeting, blurry spots, a gray curtain descending over one eye, or a shadow in your vision that vanishes after a few seconds or minutes? Many people blink and ignore it. Do not ignore it. That is often a temporary kink in the hose, a small clot or plaque debris momentarily blocking the ophthalmic artery or the vessels supplying the visual cortex. It is a mini-stroke of the eye. The third signal is the tip of the tongue phenomenon, also known as aphasia. We all forget names sometimes, but I'm talking about a specific type of frequency. If you are finding it increasingly common, if you are stopping mid-sentence because the word for simple objects like spoon, keys, or garage has just vanished from your mind, that is a sign of reduced perfusion or blood flow to the language centers of the brain. You know the concept, but you cannot retrieve the label. This is a metabolic crisis in the neurons. These are not just getting old, these are warning lights on your dashboard blinking red. They are telling you that the nitric oxide supply is insufficient to keep the microvessels open. So, let's solve the mystery. What was Robert's mistake? What is the hidden saboteur sitting in millions of bathrooms right now that essentially disarms your body's defense system? It is the mouth-body connection. Most people view the mouth as separate from the rest of the body, a place to clean and sterilize. But biologically, the mouth is the start of the digestive and vascular engine. Here's the science that most people, and even many doctors, miss. When you eat foods rich in nitrates, like beets, spinach, or lettuce, your body cannot use them immediately. The nitrates are absorbed into your blood, but they are biologically inert. They cannot dilate your arteries yet. Your body concentrates these nitrates in your salivary glands and pumps them back into your mouth through your saliva. Why? Because your human cells cannot convert nitrate into nitrite, which is the precursor to nitric oxide. We lack the enzyme to do it, but guess who does have that enzyme? Bacteria, specifically the microbiome living in the deep crypts of your tongue. These good bacteria grab the nitrates from your saliva and convert them into nitrite. You then swallow this nitrite and your stomach acid converts it into active nitric oxide. This is called the enterosalivary circulation. It is a beautiful symbiotic recycling plant. The villain in this story is strong antiseptic mouthwash. If you wake up, brush your teeth, and then immediately swirl a harsh alcohol-based antiseptic rinse, or even strong prescription rinses like chlorhexidine, you are nuking the site. You were not just killing the bacteria that cause bad breath, you were indiscriminately killing the good crew, the nitrate-reducing bacteria that processes your fuel. You were essentially sanitizing your protection away. Clinical studies have shown that using these strong agents can significantly impair the nitric oxide pathway. In fact, research demonstrates that in some individuals, using antiseptic mouthwash can lead to a measurable spike in blood pressure within hours, simply because the dilation mechanism has been disrupted. Robert was eating the salad, but he had chemically silenced the workers needed to process it. He had a clean mouth, but a starving brain. I want you to pause and check right now. Do you use a strong antiseptic rinse immediately after breakfast? Just type yes or no in the comments below. Be honest. If you do, you might be flushing your vascular protection down the drain. Now that we have identified the enemy and the mechanism, let's talk about the solution. How do we revitalize the system properly? How do we maximize nitric oxide production to open those vessels? The hero foods are beetroot and arugula, also known as rocket. These are the kings of dietary nitrates. Arugula in particular has one of the highest concentrations of nitrates per gram of any vegetable, often higher than beets. But simply eating them isn't enough. You have to use the investigative method to unlock their power. Most people get this wrong. They try to get it over with. They juice raw beets and gulp the liquid down in 2 seconds like a shot of medicine. Or they boil their greens until they are gray, soggy mush. Here is why that fails. First, boiling. Nitrates are water-soluble. If you boil spinach or arugula, the nitrates leach out into the water. If you pour the water down the sink, you have lost the medicine. Second, gulping. If you drink beet juice without letting it touch your mouth entirely, you bypass the bacteria on your tongue entirely. It hits your stomach as nitrate, and because the bacteria didn't get a chance to convert it to nitrite, it remains inert. You wasted the juice. The correct way is the chew and hold protocol. This needs to be a sensory experience. You need to become an active participant in the chemical reaction. When you eat your arugula salad, do not rush. I want you to chew the greens thoroughly until they are almost liquid. Taste the pepperiness of the arugula. That peppery bite is actually a sign of the phytochemicals at work. When you drink beet juice, do not gulp. Take a sip and swish it slightly in your mouth. Let it wash over the back of your tongue. You need to let the food mingle with your saliva. Visualize this. As you swish, you are feeding the bacteria. You are giving them the time they need to grab those nitrates and ignite the conversion process. You are literally starting the chemical reaction in your mouth. You should aim to keep the juice or the masticated greens in the oral cavity for a few extra seconds before swallowing. Regarding cooking, you should eat these foods raw or lightly steamed. Roasting beets is acceptable, but raw grated beet is superior for nitrate preservation. Fermented beets like beet kvass are also excellent as they support the gut microbiome as well. Timing is also crucial. Consume these foods 30 to 60 minutes before your daily walk or exercise. Why? Because exercise naturally demands more oxygen. If you load your system with nitric oxide precursors right before movement, you create a synergy. The movement calls for flow, and the food provides the opener. This times the nitric oxide release to peak exactly when your vessels need to expand for the pump. To truly support the endothelium, that Teflon coating, we need a support crew. Nitric oxide opens the door, but we need to ensure the door hinges are oiled and the frame is strong. First, we need magnesium, the traffic controller. Magnesium is the relaxation mineral. While calcium causes muscles to contract, magnesium causes them to relax. Your arteries are wrapped in smooth muscle. If you are deficient in magnesium, and estimates suggest 50 to 70% of people are, your arteries remain in a state of chronic low-level tension. They are stiff. To fix this, incorporate pumpkin seeds, almonds, or avocados into that arugula salad. Pumpkin seeds are a powerhouse of magnesium. Second, we need omega-3 fatty acids, the maintenance crew. Remember, plaque forms because the vessel lining gets scratched by inflammation. Omega-3s, specifically EPA and DHA, are potent anti-inflammatories. They help calm the irritation in the vessel walls. If we stop the scratching, we stop the need for the body to patch it with plaque. You can find this in fatty fish like sardines, salmon, and mackerel, or in high-quality algae oil. Walnut oil is also a great dressing for your salad as it contains ALA, a plant-based omega-3 precursor. Third, we need vitamin C, the preservative. Nitric oxide degrades very quickly. Vitamin C is an antioxidant that helps to increase the bioavailability of nitric oxide and prevents it from breaking down too fast. It helps the gas last longer in your system. A simple way to do this is to squeeze fresh lemon juice over your beet and arugula salad. The lemon juice not only adds vitamin C, but also helps the absorption of iron from the greens. It is a perfect chemical pairing. Let's put this into a routine you can start tomorrow. I want this to be actionable. This is your daily blueprint for vascular revitalization. Of course, what we are describing here is a nutritional strategy to support your body's natural functions. It does not replace the treatment given by your doctor, but serves as a powerful foundation for your overall health. Let's start with your morning, between 7 and 8 a.m. Start with a glass of warm water. Your blood is most viscous in the morning because you are dehydrated from sleep. Hydrate immediately to thin the blood. Brush your teeth, but skip the antiseptic mouthwash. If you need to freshen your breath, use a natural saltwater rinse or a mouthwash specifically designed not to kill the microbiome. There are newer brands that focus on pH balance rather than sterilization, or simply wait until later in the day. Do not sterilize your tongue right before you eat. In the mid-morning, go for a brisk walk. Even 20 minutes helps shear stress. The friction of blood moving against the vessel wall stimulates the endothelium to produce its own nitric oxide naturally. For lunch, around 12:30, you're going to have the nitrate salad. This is your medicine. Start with a base of arugula. Top it with grated raw beetroot, add a handful of pumpkin seeds for magnesium and some walnuts. Dress it all with olive oil or walnut oil and fresh lemon juice for vitamin C. And remember the protocol. Chew and hold. Eat slowly. Do not read your phone. Focus on the chewing. Let the bacteria do their work. Throughout the afternoon, stay hydrated. Dehydration shrinks blood volume and forces blood vessels to constrict to maintain pressure. Keep the water flowing. In the evening, avoid heavy sodium meals. Salt spikes the pressure in the pipes while you sleep. Eat a lighter dinner. And finally, the habit. If you can, take a 10-minute stroll after dinner. This helps blunt the blood sugar spike and keeps the circulation moving before you lie down for the night. A stroke doesn't always announce itself with a bang. Sometimes it whispers.
It whispers in a moment of dizziness, a lapse of memory, a stumble on the stairs, or a blurry spot in your vision. Today you have learned to hear that whisper before it becomes a scream. You now know that health isn't just about what you swallow, but how your body processes it. You understand that your mouth is a chemical laboratory, not just a sterile room. Don't let a simple bathroom habit rob you of your vitality. Protect your bacteria, nourish your endothelium, and keep the highway open. You are the architect of your own biology. You have the tools now to reinforce the foundation and stop the sinkholes from forming. If you found this information vital, please share it. Send it to your friends, your parents, your walking partners. Don't let them make the Robert mistake. Check out our other deep dive video about the silent stroke, symptoms you often ignore until you collapse. It's on the screen now. Revitalize your system starting today.